Next will be the chalice lighting ceremony. Bill, would you mind lighting the chalice this morning? Once there was a king who was curious but wealthy. He decided to test his fellow people to know who had a good attitude in life and who would spare some time for the country's progress. He placed a huge boulder right at the middle of the road and hid in a nearby place to see if anyone would make an attempt to move it off. He saw some wealthy merchants and courtiers passing by the road. None of them made any attempt to move it off, but simply walked away, while some others blamed the king for not maintaining the roads. Later, a peasant came by the way with a load of vegetables and saw the boulder. He kept his load down and tried to move the boulder away. After strenuous effort, he succeeded in moving the boulder away, and he saw a purse lying in the place of the boulder. It contained many gold coins and a note from the king which read, "This is the reward for the person who moves the boulder away." The moral of this story is it is quite common for people to run away from problems and obstacles, but the story clearly shows the importance of seeing an opportunity in every obstacle, which might improve our condition. Invest some time to remove obstacles from our way and experience many unseen presents. So, this morning we're going to have a slight change of events. We normally do the candle lighting ceremony right after this, but this time we're going to have a message and then move into the candle lighting ceremony, because the message is for that kind of process. It allows us to be more intentional with coming from our heart with concerns and joy, and how to understand that within ourselves. This morning's talk will be by Dan. Everybody welcome Dan with a round of applause.
to be talking about emotional intelligence, which is a skill everyone should have. And it's a skill you're not necessarily born with, but you pick up along the way through situations you're in. So, one second. Josh was having technical difficulties last week. So, emotional intelligence is how you feel about other people during your interactions. So, I see Fred feel sad or upset about something. I'm going to feel sad or upset about something because I care about Fred. I care what he thinks and how he feels. So, that's really the gist of the talk today, is about emotional intelligence and just picking up how others are feeling in the room, whether that's excitement, joy, just any kind of emotion you can imagine. So let me see if I can get I have a video to play. Let me see if I can get this video to play. So this is a slide that was supposed to come up. So when I first learned about emotional intelligence, I felt I was on my journey to becoming a better friend, family member, co-worker, and community supporter. Because emotional intelligence wraps all this into one, and it just allows you to be a better person for the people around you.
Emotional intelligence refers to how well we handle ourselves and our relationships. There are 4 domains. Self-awareness, knowing what we're feeling, why we're feeling it, which is the basis of, for example, good intuition, good decision making. Also, it's a moral compass. The second part is self-management, which means handling your distressing emotions in an effective way so that they don't cripple you, they don't get in the way of what you're doing, and yet attune them to them when you need to, so that you learn what you must. Every emotion has a function. Also, marshaling positive emotions, getting ourselves, involved, enthused about what we're doing, aligning our actions with our passions. The third is empathy, knowing what someone else is feeling. And the fourth is putting that all together in a skilled relationship. So that's what I mean by emotional intelligence. There are many definitions out there. The part of the brain, it turns out, that supports emotional and social intelligence is actually the last circuitry of the brain to become anatomically mature. And because of neuroplasticity, the brain shapes itself according to repeated experiences. So my argument is, hey, we should be teaching kids regularly, over time, in a systematic way, self-awareness, self-management, empathy, and social skills. In fact, there are now enough programs, and they've been around enough in schools, that they're about to publish a huge meta-analysis looking at hundreds of schools and kids that have the program versus those that don't. Guess what? All antisocial behavior, disruption of class, violence in school, goes down 10%. Pro-social behavior, like in school, well-behaved, up 10%. Academic achievement scores, up 11%. So it really pays. Executive function, which is mediated by the prefrontal lobe, both helps you manage your emotions and helps you pay attention. So as kids learn these skills, they also learn basic learning skills. I think that the fact that was an argument was one thing that caught people's attention. Then there was a little chapter on called Managing with Heart, which argued that leaders who were sons of a bitch were actually defeating the company's own mission. I think that made a lot of people happy because they work for people like that. I don't know. Some people gave it to other people because they thought they needed help in this domain. I'm sure there's a zillion reasons why people like to know. I know IQ has been going up for 100 years as children encounter more sophisticated cognitive environment as they grow. I don't know that we're becoming more emotionally intelligent. I'd like to hope we would, but I think that the number of intergroup wars going on, the intergroup hatred going on, levels of familial abuse, in other words, indicators of emotions out of control in dangerous ways, don't look that great, which is why I'm a very strong proponent of getting these social emotional learning programs in every school worldwide. You have to remember that emotional intelligence is a range of abilities: self-awareness, emotional self-management, empathy, social skills. Women tend to be better than men on average at empathy, particularly emotional empathy, sensing in the moment how the other person is feeling, and also at social skills, keeping things feeling between people. Men, on the other hand, tend to be better on average at self-confidence, particularly in groups, and at managing distressing emotions. But what's very interesting is if you look at leaders who are in the top 10%, there's no difference between men and women on any of those variables. In other words, you have a whole human being. So I would say that on average there are differences men and women in this domain of ability, but as people develop their skills, as people become more effective, they pick up strengths in areas that they need. I think that emotional intelligence is a universal, but it looks different in different places. Japan has a very rigid set of rules of social interaction. Lots of subtleties. Americans typically blunder into the Japanese system, don't get what's going on. And, it's embarrassing, but they wouldn't recognize necessarily emotional intelligence in Japanese. And Brazil is a very different culture. It's very outgoing, kind of like Italian culture. And so it would look different there. But I think the fundamentals are the same.
Okay, so by practicing emotional intelligence, we can influence the people around us to break down barriers and grow as a community effortlessly. So this is a big part of community building, is just understanding each other and how they feel. And ourselves, because that's an important factor. If we can't process our own emotions, how can we start to process anyone else's? Understanding emotional intelligence allows us to be more aware of our situations by being aware of how others are feeling. So the question is, how do I know if I'm practicing emotional intelligence? Right? Here's a few questions to ask yourself. Do you think about others? Do you feel for these two people in these photographs? Do you ever feel bad or ashamed? Are you learning to control your emotions? So here's a good chart. It shows the logic mind and the emotional mind, and where we should be somewhere in the middle of those two. Use both sets of skills to bring it in the middle and make a sound decision. Can you see someone else's point of view? Can you walk in someone else's shoes? What position do you hold in your relationships? Are you the one scratching or receiving the scratches? Are you protecting yourself using emotion? This guy is holding a little too much weight, and he probably can't move around too well. So is it improving his life to have that armor, or is it hindering him? Do you seek to understand before being understood? So this guy is diving into the water. Thanks, Josh. This guy's diving into the water with Moses standing next to him, and he's concerned that Moses might part the water. So is he really thinking, he's trying to process what Moses is thinking before ever feeling anything, or trusting him. So how do you know if you're doing enough? If you're thinking about it, it's enough. You're doing your job, and it's a process to get to the end goal. But it's enough. good night.
The biggest tip-off is, do you find yourself repeating the same interpersonal disaster? I keep going out with guys who do X and it ends horribly, or, I don't know, I'm really good at what I do, but I seem to get fired all the time, or whatever perplex there may be. That's a clue for sure. So, any pattern of problems in the domain of human relationships. Well, parents should realize that they're the child's main and first coach in this domain, but that you don't have to make a big deal of it. You just have to be a good enough. You have to tune, you have to empathize, you have to be concerned, you have to spend time. Kids learn an enormous amount in this domain non-verbally. They learn it by modeling. There's a set of neurons actually that are designed for this. They're called mirror neurons. And mirror neurons activate in your own brain what you see another person do, intend, feel. And it appears that a huge amount of learning, and particularly in early childhood, comes from a child just watching how the adults and the other kids in the environment are behaving. And they take that in, they model that. So you don't have, just being a good human being helps a lot. Raise your child to be a good human being. And there are guides, there are books on how to raise an emotionally intelligent child and so on. And if you want to, get into the specifics, you can. It's out there, but you don't really need to worry about it if you care and if you give your child time.
So the biggest thing I want everyone to remember from this talk is you are the mirror. Anything you say or do throughout your day affects the people around you. So trying to have good attitude is very important. And to care about other people.
Thank you for today, for the fun that we've shared this morning. We do have one last thing. Before we wrap up and move into coffee hour, we have a few minutes available. Does anyone want to ask Dan any questions over his talk? You want to come on up, brother?
Just sit here. If anybody has any questions. Just stay here.
Or
just comments.
Yeah, comments is great.
And we had a lot of commentary already.
Yeah. Yeah, that was awesome.
So it was really thankful. Or if anybody has any announcements about what's coming up, you can do that.
Everyone's voice matters. Yep.
I have an announcement about August 19th, and it's a reminder. I've set it for August 19th. We're having our first LGBTQ plus luncheon for seasoned adults here down in the basement. I also think there'll be tables outside. There will be some food brought in, and also inviting people to bring something to share for potluck. And allies are welcome. We haven't done that way anywhere else in the state, but here we are. And I have this real hope that this is another pathway to a restart in terms of opening ourselves up in the community in that way. And so you're welcome, all are welcome, and we'll just see. And as allies, just being clear that there may be some need for some space of these folks who are these folks to come together. But I am so excited about sharing the love and the open-heartedness and the embracing and the willingness to open our hearts and minds. And I'm very excited about whatever's going to happen on August 19th.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. August 19th, we have a luncheon here. It starts at noon?
Yes, noon, and then I think some people are gonna stay so that they can be for entertainment that night.
Because that evening is coffee hour, or, yeah, the Open Cup Cafe, and we have a band playing that night. So it'll be a great day. Yeah. Does anybody else have any comments? Okay. Yes.
It was a beautiful service.
It was. Thank you, Dan. It was awesome.
And Josh.
Yeah.
And Josh.
And Josh. Well, honestly, all Dan. All I did was stand up and read something he sent me. He did an amazing job. I'm very grateful to have him in my life. And I would like to share 2 skills that I use as my point of view to help me with emotional intelligence. So when I'm talking to someone and they're all in their head, I ask them how they feel until they tell me an emotion. It's an interesting process. You're like, so how do you feel? And we're like, well, so-and-so did this. How do you feel? Well, this happened. So how do you feel? Just continue to ask until they get the point of like, okay, recognize how you genuinely feel right now, and then allow the rest to be the context. This is why you feel that way. But be honest with how you feel. And then the second one is what I do in order to have control over myself. So thank you for your talk this morning. Sometimes we are around people that are suffering intentionally, or, you know, one of the phrases I tell my kids, so they are aware of like bullying in school and stuff like that, is hurt people hurt people. And one of the things that I do to help myself as an empath and a sensitive person is to be able to feel nothing at all, which is not apathy. It's just me being able to control how much value I give to my thoughts. So if I do mindfulness and emptiness, and I make myself empty, what I'm imagining is I'm pushing all influence of my social standing, my clothes, who I am, like all of that stuff to the outside, and I just feel what's inside. What's left is me. When I push out all the branding, all the marketing, all the influence, that meditation I do to intentionally not give any value to my thoughts allows me to get back to being grounded. And so I do that when I have conversations with people that trigger me. Because I still have an ego, and I'm still going to get triggered, this is how I stop it. Mindfulness. I give no value to it. So that's my comments. Just like everyone else's comments, they are valuable to me, and hopefully that point of view helps you. Thank you very much for today, and I look forward to coffee hour.
We want to thank everybody for tuning in today. If you'd like to show your support, please hit the like button, subscribe to our channel if you're not already subscribed, and help us out by sharing this message by clicking the share button. If you'd like to make a monetary donation to you, Church Holton, there is a link to our online donations in the video description down below. And again, thank you so much, and have a blessed day.